a hilarious DIY gift idea for your husband this Valentine's Day, then keep on watching. My name is Alex Vanover with DIY Alex, and I'm so glad that you're here. Because in this video, I'm gonna show you step by step how to sublimate your own boxer shorts, and I'm even gonna show you how to put your face on them. Plus, stick around until the end of this video because I'm going to show you some mistakes that I made while sublimating these boxers so that if you decide to make your own, you won't make the same mistakes that I did. Now, before we get started, I do want to give a quick shout out to Silky Socks for sponsoring this video. So thank you guys so much. Now, let's get into it.
So the first step in creating your custom boxer shorts is to begin with your photos. And I'm going to prepare all of my photos and clip art using Canva. Now, keep in mind the tools that I am going to be using from Canva are Canva Pro features. So that means you have to have the membership in order to use some of these things. For example, the clip art I'm going to use, and I believe the background remover tool is also a Canva Pro feature as well. So feel free to use a different program if you don't have Canva Pro. So I'm going to begin by going to the top right corner and clicking the purple create a design button, and I'm just going to look for a piece of paper size canvas. So 8.5 by 11 is perfect. Then the next thing I want to do is insert my photo, and I want to clean it up so that it's just going to be a picture of my face. So I'm going to go into my recent uploads, and I'm going to choose this photo right here, and I want to zoom in a little bit and talk about why I chose this photo. So the reason that I chose this photo for my project today is because, first of all, it includes my entire head. So that's one really important piece. You don't want to have any part of your head or your hair cut off. I also find that, at least for me, like as a female, I like that my hair is down here and it's not in a ponytail because I think it looks a little bit more like me. Sometimes I find that the head looks a little funky when my hair is pulled back. So what I'm going to do next, and what I always like to do with the Canva background remover tool, as I like to crop the photo until it's really close to what I want to remove the background of. So I'm going to remove like most of this stuff. I'm going to leave my hat on my head since it's already there, but I'm just going to crop in really close like this. Then in order to use the background remover tool, I'm going to go to edit image and then choose background remover. And yes, okay. So this is part of Canva Pro because you can see the little crown beside it. Then I'm going to click on background remover, and you'll see that it removed all of the background from behind my head. However, I am also going to remove my shoulders because I think that it just looks a little bit funky while it's like kind of cut off like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get in really close, and in fact, I might make the photo a little bit bigger, and I'm going to get in nice and close so that I can start removing some of these details. So I'm going to be using the erase and the restore function from Canva to take care of all this. Something else that I'm going to do, you guys will see as I walk through this process, is I'm going to remove some of the hair from the background that's kind of moving in a different direction, because you don't want to focus on necessarily making like your face perfect. I'm also going to remove the hair on this side, and I'm just going to take the eraser straight down this way just to simplify the silhouette so that there's not a billion pieces, and I'm not trying to trace around every hair on my head. So I'm going to start with the erase function, and I'm going to make my brush size 25 is probably a good start because I'm going to start by kind of cutting around the area that I know I want to use. And I'm actually going to go all the way up to my chin here. I'll kind of trace all the way around all the hair, and then I can go back and erase the rest of my shoulders. And get the rest of, oh, okay, for some reason it brought back the rest of the photo. So I'm going to keep on erasing, and I'm going to make my brush size way bigger this time so that I can get the bottom much faster. There we go. Now we can zoom back in and get really close to the details. I'm going to make my brush size really small and go in really, really close. So now I'm just going to take the eraser, and I'm just going to kind of follow the outline of my hair all the way down and around. I'm not getting up in between every single hair or anything like that because you're honestly not going to be able to tell when I actually apply these to the boxer shorts. Next, I'm going to make my brush super, super small, and I'm going to go in by my chin, and I'm going to cut out everything underneath the line of my chin. We'll want to go in and clean this up a little bit, so I'll get even a little bit closer, and then I'll just continue down and around my hair. And actually, I think to simplify things even further, I may just go straight down right here so that my hair is kind of moving straight down from my chin. These extra pieces might leave it things at a little bit of a funky shape if I leave those in. And if you get to a spot where you accidentally erase too much, that's where you can use the restore tool. If you wave that back over anything that you missed, it'll bring back any part of that photo. So feel free to do that as you need to. Something else that makes this a lot easier is having an actual mouse. So using the trackpad on your laptop or something like that is going to be a lot trickier. So I recommend actually using a mouse if you have one. And I don't want any big like edges like this or like kind of corners. So I'll just go ahead and smooth those out. And I know it doesn't look the neatest, but when you get a lot closer, it really doesn't end up mattering very much. You actually can't tell as much as you would think. So that little area I kind of cut into my hair and I didn't mean to. So I'll show you how to use that little restore section right here. And it just brings it right back. Then I'll go back to erase and continue tracing around my hair. Even though I just restored that area, I think I'm just going to take that whole section, just kind of smooth it out. Okay, so now that we have most of the details gone, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out quite a bit and kind of see what that looks like. But it looks a little bit weird right here to have this little divide in my hair. So I'm going to go back in closer and figure out what I need to do to make that look better. Even just kind of leave it like that. Even though you can see my green sweater a little bit, I think if I zoom out, that's going to look a lot better. It's kind of a really simple silhouette. It's just my face and then two sections of my hair hanging down around my chin. And then of course, because I'm wearing a hat, then that'll do as well. Once you're happy with the way that your cutout looks, then you can click on the done button and then we'll click apply. And that'll be our final image. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the corner handle and I'm going to resize my design. You can kind of see over that bottom right corner, little box that pops up and tells you what size your design is. I tend to like my pop-up heads to be about 2 by 2 or as close as I can get to that. So 2 inches wide by 2 inches high. That way I can fit a bunch of them in there without like my head looking too big, but also it doesn't look too small either. So once I have that, I'm going to do something that might seem a little bit strange, but while I have my image selected, I'm actually going to click on flip. And I'm going to flip myself horizontal. And that's because you guys probably know if you've sublimated before that you have to have your image flipped anyway, 180 degrees. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip everything in advance. That way when I actually go to print, I don't have to worry about mirroring my image. So and then once I have my heads in place or whatever you're going to use as your main image, I don't want to only put heads on it because I think that that will look a little bit boring. So I'm actually going to go into the elements section and I'm going to look for conversation hearts. So you can search for here in this box for conversation hearts, Valentine's Day, and there's actually a lot of great things that come up here in the Canva elements, but I really liked these I do, kiss me, be mine conversation hearts. I thought they were super cute. So I'll just click those to insert them and I'm going to take them down to about 2 inches by 2 inches as well. And this is super important that I actually flip these because they are text. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my image and choose flip and then flip horizontal. And that way I don't have to mirror my image at all. So once you have these two images in place, now you're just going to duplicate your images a bunch and kind of set up your pages the way that you want them. So I think the way that I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to do a whole page of faces and a whole page of conversation hearts. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate my page onto a second page, and I'm going to delete the head so that this will be a whole page of these. And then I'll delete the conversation hearts up here so that I can duplicate my heads so that there's a whole bunch of these. So once I have this done, then I can just go ahead and click on the duplicate button and set these into rows. I'll start spacing them out kind of like this. And I don't want to get them too close to the edge of the page because I don't want to risk my printer not wanting to print them if they're too close to the edge. And then I think we can fit one more, so I'll duplicate one more. And that looks pretty good to me. It looks like I can put a little more space in between the ones at the top. So I'll space those out. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And once I have one row in place, what I like to do is click and hold my mouse down and select all of these. And then I'm going to use Control C to copy on my keyboard and then Control V to paste a whole second row. And then I can really make this happen a lot faster rather than trying to duplicate a bunch of rows. So as you can see, I can fit a bunch of faces onto one page, which works out great for me. But I think one thing I am going to do is click and drag a box around everything. And then I'm just going to use my arrow keys on my keyboard to bring everything down. Again, just so I don't get too close to the margins of my paper, because I don't want to risk my printer not being able to print the top row of heads. Then I'm going to go down and repeat the same process on the conversation hearts, so that I have a whole page of these. If you're uncomfortable with keyboard shortcuts, you can also use this duplicate button here. But I think the keyboard shortcuts, like using Control-C and Control-V, when you have everything perfectly in line, it's going to show you those purple dotted lines. And that's going to let you know that you have everything exactly in line. So I rely on those guides quite a bit in Canva. So now I can select the entire row by clicking and holding my mouse and selecting all of them, using Control-C and Control-V to create additional rows. Okay, well, the worst thing that can happen is that on this right-hand side, we're gonna get cut off. So we'll go ahead and print this page out and see. So once I have a full page of conversation hearts and a full page of faces, next I need to go ahead and click the share button in the upper right-hand corner. And I need to export my page. So I'm going to go down to the download option. I'm going to keep PNG as my suggested file type, and I am going to check the transparent background option and then click the purple download button. Then once my design downloads, I'm going to have it show in folder, and I'll extract my design by right-clicking and choosing extract all, because I can see that it's a zip file. And then once it's open, I'll go ahead and double click on this page to open it. Remember, I don't need to do any flipping because I already took care of that in Canva, but I'm going to go ahead and print this page to my sublimation printer, and I'll do the same thing to my other page. The settings for my printer that I like to use are changing the paper type to premium presentation paper matte, and I'll click on more settings and change the output quality from standard to high, and then click OK. And once you have the settings the way that you like them, you can go ahead and press the print button. I'm going to go ahead and print these pages, and I'll see you guys over at my craft table to show you how to apply these to your boxer shorts.
So once you have your pages printed out in your sublimation printer, the next step, of course, is to cut them apart, which I'll get to here in just a moment. But I wanted to show you a little bit about the Silky Socks boxer shorts because I think that they are a really great product. They have a really high quality feel to them, of course, because they're polyester, they're super stretchy, and because they're white, you could actually sublimate across the whole thing if you wanted to. But the reason I like doing the design like this is because it doesn't matter what size sublimation printer you have. Anybody with an 8.5 by 11 printing sublimation printer can make this kind of design. Of course, if you have a slightly larger printer, then you can sublimate over the whole thing if you prefer to add a background or something like that. These Silky Socks boxer shorts are available in sizes small through 3X. And you can also get styles for women as well. So regardless of the gender of your partner, you can find a style of Silky Socks underwear just for them. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and set these aside for a moment while I cut apart all of the designs, and then we'll start taping them on. Now, of course, you can just use a pair of scissors for this, but at least for the photos of the head, I am gonna use a paper trimmer to make things a little bit faster. So then once everything is cut out, I am gonna take a moment to lint roll my shorts to make sure that any lint or any kind of residue is off of them before I start laying down all of my pieces. And then before I start taping anything, I'm gonna start with just taking my images and just placing them right side up on the boxer shorts. Now, of course, when I actually tape them, they are gonna have to be facing down towards the shorts, but I just wanna get a visual for what it's going to look like before I flip everything over. I almost wish I had added in a third image to add in just a little bit more variety. Yeah. I think something like that looks pretty good. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna flip over each of my images, and then I'm just gonna put one piece of tape to secure them in place, and I believe that should be enough. We're gonna sublimate right over top of the seam so that I can spread things out a little bit. I think that will look a lot better. I don't necessarily want the images to all be in the exact same place on both sides, but I do want them to be kind of similar because I think that's going to give it a bit of a more balanced look. So once all the images are taped down on my boxers, now it's time to go press them. So in order to sublimate these boxer shorts, I have my heat press set to 400 degrees for 40 seconds. It's already preheated and ready to go. And on the platen of my heat press, I have down one layer of butcher paper as well as my boxer shorts. However, even though this platen is 15 inches by 15 inches, it's a little bit too small for my boxer shorts. So I have the right leg kind of hanging off of the side, and I'm just going to do the middle and the left leg, and then I'll have to do a second press for the other side where I'll just shift the boxers over. Then I'll put a second piece of butcher paper on the top to protect the top of my press. Then I'll slowly lower the pull-out drawer into place. I'm going to double check that I like the placement before I lower the platen. In order to make sure that none of the images are half on and half off the heat press, I am going to pull one of the images over here a little bit further, just to make sure that it's fully on top of the platen. Then I'll place my butcher paper back on top of the boxers and press for 40 seconds. Then raise the platen and pull off my butcher paper. Now, as soon as my boxers are cool to the touch, I am going to shift them to the other side. And I think that my paper on the top is going to need to be changed out because I can see some faint ghosting of my image on top, and I don't want to accidentally transfer that ink onto my boxers. But I'm going to leave the bottom piece of butcher paper in place. So I am going to pull off this top image. That way none of the paper or the tape gets in the way. And the images are looking super bright. I love the way that they turned out on these boxers. So now we'll kind of get this side in place. Make sure it's fully on the platen. And press for another 40 seconds. And once I raise that platen, go ahead and pull off my butcher paper and remove the little pieces from the side. And these are looking so fun. So I'm going to take these back to my craft table and I'm going to repeat the same process on the back side of just sticking down my images and taping them down with tape. And then I'll be back in a moment to press them. So I'm back and I followed the same process of adding images to the back side of the boxer shorts. The only thing that I did differently is I noticed that the images looked kind of far apart on the front side of the boxers. So I added in a few more images to hopefully make it look a little bit more dense and really make the design pop a little bit better. So I'm going to follow the same procedure with having the kind of right leg of the boxer shorts off the side to make sure that I can press everything evenly. And then I'll rotate everything over and press that side once this side is finished. I'll put a fresh piece of butcher paper over here on the side and press at 400 degrees for 40 seconds. Okay, I'm going to pull out the drawer a little bit, give my boxer some time to cool. Then I'll pull all my little images off. I made a couple of mistakes on these boxers and I'm going to show you guys what those look like at the end so that hopefully you don't make the same mistakes that I did. I'm going to stick the drawer all the way back in so that they don't fall off the side because they're going to have to be a good bit of the way off of the platen to just get these last 3 pieces. Oh, and it looks like they've started to bleed a little bit, so I'm going to get rid of this butcher paper because once you can see any ink on the butcher paper, it's possible to transfer that through to the shorts. So I'm just going to take this butcher paper and I think I'll just fold it in half. Where this is such a small section, that should cover both the bottom and the top. So I'll just kind of stick this in here like this. Put the butcher paper over on the top as well. And now we'll press for another 40 seconds. All right, give that a second to cool. I'll peel these off and then I'll show you the final result. I'm really glad that I had butcher paper on both sides because it looks like even on this just little side strip, I had some of the ink, like probably from the front side, transfer onto the butcher paper. So definitely make sure you always have butcher paper on both sides of your press. I'm gonna give these boxers another moment to cool, but let's hop back over to my craft table so I can show you how they turned out and some mistakes I made while sublimating these boxers. Okay, so now that my boxers are finished, I wanted to give you guys a better idea of how they turned out. And I actually think that they turned out really, really great. Now the camera's really having trouble showing you guys some of the coloring here. It's looking a lot darker than they look in person. But I really like the way that the conversation hearts turned out, and that's just a really nice reflection of the fabric. Silky Socks always makes great blanks, and the blanks transferred beautifully with all of the color. But like I told you in the last clip, I did make some mistakes and I wanted to share those with you. The first mistake that I noticed is right here on this seam. You can see on this side of the hat, I had some trouble with the color transfer. And I think that's because it was so close to the seam, but it wasn't quite on top of the seam. You can see on this side, I sublimated directly over top of the seam and it looked perfect. But this one was just not quite close enough and it ended up messing up the color transfer a little bit. You'll also notice that my face is looking a little bit orange. And that is also a reflection of my sublimation printer, not of the blank itself. So now I need to do some troubleshooting to figure out why everything that has any kind of brown in it is ending up with like this orangey tone. The next mistake I made is that I don't think my images are close together enough. I would have preferred a little bit less white space, which I did correct when I got to the back of the boxers. So I'll show you those here in a moment. And then last but not least, I had some issues when I was sublimating the back with wrinkles in the front. So you can kind of see on this conversation heart that some of the ink transferred, and I can actually see that a little bit of a wrinkle was pressed into this image, and that's why some of the ink did transfer. So I'm hoping to share these mistakes with you so that when you make a pair of these boxer shorts, you won't make the same mistakes I did. So definitely be cautious of how close your images are to the seams and whether or not there are any wrinkles. Now let's turn over to the back side and I'll show you how these turned out. So overall, I do think the back side went a lot better. I think I learned a lot from doing the front side where I added some more images. But you can see that the same issues I had on the front, I also had on the back. This is another image that was right over top of that seam on the front, and I had some issues with the color transfer right here on the image. And the camera is just having a really hard time picking that up. So you guys might not be able to see it as clearly as I can, but it's also related to the seam. Now on this image, you can kind of see that my conversation heart is cut off. And I think this is because when I was pressing it in two different parts, this was right at the edge of the platen of the heat press. So I should have just been a little bit more careful with the way that I place these on the platen. And then last but not least, I had some color transfer issues right here in the middle, but this is also because of that same wrinkle that I showed you guys on the front. So it just transferred some issues over to the back as well. But overall, I love these blanks. All of the colors turned out so bright, and I think this would be a hilarious project for your husband or partner this Valentine's Day. In fact, I think my husband is going to crack up when I show these to him. So let me know down in the comments below, would your husband wear a pair of boxers with your face on them? Of course, you don't have to put your face, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this project down below. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new, and make sure you subscribe to DIY Alex for more videos a lot like this one every single week. Plus, you know that I love to get social with you over on social media, so you can use the links down in the description below to find me on all of your favorite social media platforms. All the hearts.